you can't not call Tom Cruise a stuntman with the level of actual performance that he brings to these insane sequences in these movies.
It's crazy how there's 7 of these movies and people still believe it's Tom Cruise when the whole point of these movies is like having a mask on. Like, it's not actually him.
The number 10 spot is the building gap jump from Mission Impossible Fallout. By the way, all these stunts named by me. So if you can't figure out what they are, we'll describe them a little bit.
Running out of the helicarrier, jumps out. Right here, he's got to get the perfect distance away.
And this is the incredible work. We gotta pay like respect to the cameraman here, who's laying probably on their back as they fall through the air, pointing the camera up at Tom.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And today we're talking about the top 10 Mission Impossible stunts.
3, 2, 1,
action! Here we go, top 10 stunts.
This is something I'm really excited about. These movies are a testament to filmmaking, to practical filmmaking. Tom Cruise, I know, is inspired by like the classic stuntmen, people who did their own stunts back in the day, you know, like in the 50s and 60s. Like what Buster Keaton, I think, is one of them. And there have been a few people in our modern times, like Jackie Chan and Tom Cruise, who have gone from being actors to being actors and basically stuntmen themselves. You can't not call Tom Cruise a stuntman with the level of actual performance that he brings to these insane sequences in these movies. I'm so excited to talk about our top 10. Just this last week and a half, I've been watching all 7 Mission Impossible movies to get ready, because as of recording this, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is going to be coming out this weekend, and I am super pumped to go see that and see what new, grand adventure they bring to the screen. I'm going to go see it on the biggest screen I can, but these movies are absolute spectacle, and it's because you can see Tom's face in all of these awesome sequences, going all the way back to Mission Impossible 1. Like 1 and 2, he's still doing his own incredible stunt work.
It's crazy how there's 7 of these movies and people still believe it's Tom Cruise when the whole point of these movies is like having a mask on. Like, it's not actually him.
You peel back Tom Cruise's mask and it's actually Aaron underneath it.
That's right. And it's about time I get my recognition here.
You've been hiding in the background for so long. I'm honestly impressed that you made it this long. You're so humble.
I know. But it's finally my time to go from the back seat
to the
front seat.
A perfectly executed joke.
Thank you.
I am excited to talk about these. So if you guys are listening or watching at home, we're going to talk about our top 10 favorite stunts from the franchise based solely on our own criteria of how impressive the stunt was and how well it integrated into the story. And then we're also going to give some behind the scenes details on the stunt too. So I think that should be a lot of fun for you guys. Pay attention and you can figure out some of the filmmaking stuff and some of the like creative design work they did for the stunts to make them work. We have some little tidbits in there for most of these stunts.
Yeah, and the top 3 stunts we're going to be watching alongside of us talking about them, so you can kind of see like what the stunts were as we're breaking them down.
Yeah, you guys can just chill at home, kick back, relax, and we'll tell you all the fun like stuff that you need to know. So are you ready to get into this?
Yep. Starting in 10.
Starting in 10. I do want to thank you guys for clicking on this video. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Follow us on whatever platform you're on. So starting even before the number 10 spot, thank you for queuing me up, Aaron, but I'm going to actually redirect you. I do have 2 honorable mentions.
So, in addition to the 10.
In addition to the 10, one of
Stupid. That's a top 12 list.
One of these
top 12 list, Andrew. You did this wrong.
One of them doesn't count because it hasn't been in a released movie yet. It's from Final Reckoning. So the other one is just because I think it's cool and I just watched it yesterday. The train sequence at the end of Dead Reckoning where the train's falling apart and he's climbing up out of the train with Peggy Carter, Haley Atwell. That is just a super cool sequence. No behind the scenes details on this one. Is just really cool and fun that they are like in this little lodge jumping back and forth and climbing, and looks very practical as well. Then the other one from a movie that hasn't come out yet, the upcoming Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. the wing walking sequence that we've seen in the trailer where Tom is on the side of a biplane being thrashed around, floating midair in 0 Gs as the plane dips up and down, looks absolutely insane. And he was recently on Fallon talking about it, giving us some behind the scene details. Now, he said that because the winds are so fast, they're traveling at 90 to 150 miles per hour as they're moving through the air. And he is legitimately, cabled to the wing of a biplane called wing walking. The winds are moving so fast, he has to turn his face down into the side in order to breathe because the oxygen would be rushing in too fast. He can't breathe normally. He has to look away to breathe air. And they actually had to use hand signals to communicate between him and the stunt coordinators and director, Christopher McQuarrie, because if he was in danger, he can't speak to them. The wind is too violently whipping for them to use like walkie-talkies or other communication devices. You wouldn't be able to hear his voice. So he would pat his head to tell them when he needs a break, which Tom Cruise described it as like being so intense. He said, like, imagine you're doing a maxing out lift. After a couple minutes of that, that's how you feel. He said, if you're full tilt sprinting, that's how a couple minutes of being on the side of this wing felt, trying to control yourself, because they're literally rattling him around. They're doing different aerial maneuvers in the biplane that are jostling him. So
I think that's
incredible.
probably an honorable mention that didn't make the list, is all of his sprinting that he does.
Yeah, all the sprinting wrapped into one. It's insane for how long he sprints, and people have analyzed it, like, and seen that he's actually running a really fast pace.
Yeah. And distance. I think he's covered like over a mile or something, and just sprinting.
Yeah,
across the film.
There's 3 sprinting scenes in Dead Reckoning alone. Mm-hmm. He sprints like across the top of the airport. He sprints when he's trying to go save Ilsa from Gabriel. Like, there's a bunch
I think that's
of
the Fountain of Youth, right?
That he's having to use to sprint that fast.
No, I think that's what's keeping him young.
Is he's never not sprinting.
Right. So
maybe it's something
if you use it, you don't lose it,
Yeah. I mean, hey, clock us in as the medical podcast.
That's right. When's the last time you sprinted?
Sports science. A week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Full speed?
Like 80%.
That's not a sprint. He's going 100% for every single take.
Every take. Dude, he's impressive.
Yeah.
And I think he's 61.
Yeah, he's old.
Found a youth, baby. Okay, let's get on to the actual list. Number 10, the 10 spot on our top 10 Mission Impossible stunts. These are all going to be Tom Cruise stunts, by the way, so don't be surprised. The number 10 spot is the building gap jump from Mission Impossible Fallout. By the way, all these stunts named by me. So if you can't figure out what they are, we'll describe them a little bit. But I'm talking about towards the third act of the movie, Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, he's chasing John Lark, and Benji directs him to like cross a street. And this is the part where Ethan's like, I'm jumping out of a window. And he has to leap from one building to the other. In the behind the scenes, we find out after the fact, after watching the movie, we find out that Tom Cruise broke his ankle making this jump. And you can see it in the film. You can see where his foot just doesn't quite make it. And he lands kind of almost on his stomach.
Yeah.
And has to climb up and hobble away.
His foot into the wall.
Absolutely blasted his ankle. He actually continued filming after breaking his ankle. You can see him limping in the scene. He climbs up and continues to like kind of hobble / jog. Yeah. And he kind of wrapped filming that day and went to the hospital. They recommended he stay off of it for 9 weeks. And he said he trained really hard to get back to the set in 7 weeks. Because Tom Cruise is a longtime veteran of the film industry. He knows that when your star is injured like that and it halts everything, it affects the whole production. It delays the production of the movie, but also puts people out of work for those couple weeks. People have to kind of sit around, stunt coordinators, lighting guys, electricians, all these people. It affects everything because he is like the crux of the movie. You can't film without the star. So he worked hard to get back as soon as he could and cut 2 weeks off as his recovery time, which is really impressive. But that jump had to be in there because the story is incredible. And yes, during that stunt, he's not jumping across those 2 buildings with like nothing underneath him. There is like, you can look behind the scenes, there's like a platform netting type deal underneath him so that he doesn't fall and die, which is the setup of a lot of these stunts. You'll see as a theme.
Pretty close to happening, apparently.
He's wired into a lot of stuff. There's, maybe some protective gear beneath him, or he's roped in. This is still insanely impressive stuff, guys. Just because they're doing it smart, where like if their actor is not to make it, he doesn't actually die. Because got to be honest, that would do a lot more than ruin the movie. It would do a lot more than put people out of work. It would have ramifications for stunt work.
Yeah. What's the Scientology afterlife like?
I don't know. You just enter the realm of science. You become a molecule.
You return back to the earth.
I'm actually going to stop myself. I'm not going to talk shit. I can't be on camera saying anything nefarious because, what if one day we get to meet Tom Cruise?
Then he can show you the way.
He'll be like, actually, you do become a molecule. You laugh, but you will become a molecule, my son. That's what all of us.
And you'll be like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
You are right.
Can my molecules shake your molecules?
Okay. Going on to number 9.
Number 9, prestigious number 9 spot. I called this number 9 spot the pole vault from Rogue Nation. And it's not a traditional pole vault. This is the scene in Rogue Nation where he's handcuffed, being interviewed by Ilsa Faust, and then that other random, Eastern European looking dude.
Yeah.
And he's got his hands handcuffed behind his head with a pole behind him. But the pole doesn't go all the way to the ceiling.
But
that's the key.
You have to remember, too, shirtless.
It's funky.
Important.
Abbed up.
Yes.
Greased up.
Dude.
Shining.
Probably 52, 50.
Probably, legitimately.
55, maybe.
And can you look up his age? Because I don't want to slander. I don't want to be way off on this. Look up his age now.
I think we have.
I'm pretty sure it's 61.
Yeah, 62.
That's insane.
July 3rd. It's almost his birthday.
Putting out another movie. Happy early birthday, Tom. And so in this scene, he's getting interrogated, and you can see in the sequence shots of Tom Cruise's actual face where he basically does kind of a front lever. He pulls his legs up and then does
a kip.
Hip up and
kips his way,
forces his body
up the pole,
up into the air, counterbalancing himself using the handcuffs on the other side of the pole.
Multiple shots.
Yeah.
But each shot has his face in it.
And then grabs onto the top and launches himself over the top of the pole.
Separate shot.
Yeah. Also a super sick kick of this goon before he climbs up there. He kicks the guy and he looks like he flies 20 feet. But
so in that shot, I haven't looked up the behind the scenes necessarily, but if they have a wire and stuff on there, he's still using his body to get momentum to move his way up. It's not like the wire's just pulling him up the pole, it's not like he's just floating through the air. He's actively flinging himself up.
And that's what makes
probably some movie magic in there a little bit, but he's still there moving his body through space in that capacity.
And they envision this in a sense to make it look cool. So even though they cut, the concept is very clearly delivered to the audience. So it's executed super well. I don't want the cut to feel like a knock on the stunt because we picked this from a special place because it's, like you said, underrated. It's a great stunt that might go by the wayside and otherwise huge cavalcade of stunts throughout the franchise.
Right.
But going on to the number 8 spot.
Number 8.
This one's a lot of fun. Number 8 spot is from Mission Impossible 2, Free Solo. And I want to put a clear delineation here.
I think it's called free climbing.
I want to talk about this. Whenever you look at a list, it says free climbing, right? Just so you guys know, free climbing, that's rock climbing. Free climbing is when you're harnessed in with a rope. Free soloing, like the documentary that won the Oscar with Alex Honnold, is when you're climbing without a harness, without a rope. So free soloing is what his character was doing in the movie. Sure, on the set, he was free climbing because he was
that's why they call it.
But the stunt is a free solo. That's what they want the audience to believe. He is, in the beginning of Mission Impossible 2, he's climbing it's an orange rock. It looks maybe like it's in Moab, in the Utah, Arizona area of the U.S. No rope, no harness on Ethan Hunt, the character, climbing up the side of a mountain. He's doing crazy jumps, reverse iron cross. It's super.
Which no one jumps when they're free soloing, right?
Generally not. There was a time I know in Free Solo that Alex Honnold was considering it for part of the route, but he doesn't end up doing it because even Alex Honnold, who's one of the most renowned free soloists in the world, he's created some of the biggest feats of free soloing in the world. When he was planning to do it, he was saying, this is incredibly sketchy. I don't want to do this. And he found a different way to do it. Because when you're 1,000 feet up in the air, that's an incredibly risky move. And if your hand slips and you don't,
You're 5 feet up in the air.
he talks about when you're climbing as a free soloist, you want to have 3 points of contact optimally. So that's like hand, foot, and then the other foot moves up.
How many
before
times in that scene does Tom Cruise have 1 point of contact?
Quite a few. And he does a crazy, awesome knee bar, like where he tucks his knees in and it's like pinned his knees and feet in this little shelf of rock, and both hands come out and relax, and he's like shaking his arms out. It's a real rock climber move, but it's very scary to do that unless you're at a safe point in your free solo. There are going to be points in a free solo where there's like shelves of rock behind you that could probably catch you. It's not all going to be straight sheer cliff drops to your death. Those safer points are where you can do a little bit more risky maneuvers. I'm not a free soloist. I did a little bit of rock climbing back in the day, so I don't want to talk like I know everything about free soloing. But check out the free solo documentary. It's tons of fun. In this sequence, there are moments where he has, again, like rigging beneath him that would catch him, or predominantly he's roped in. I know that they offered for Tom to do it, according to the article I was reading. They offered Tom to do it like basically on a studio lot where they would have man-made recreations of a rock wall surface, and he said no, I want to do it actually out in the setting. Like John Woo, I think, was quoted, the director of the movie, saying like he was frustrated. He's like, why are you making me do this? Because he felt scared for Tom's safety, but Tom insisted on it.
Yeah.
And when you have Tom's star power, you can get stuff like that done. So it is filmed out in nature. He's got a rope on that they just remove in post.
And then that brings us to number 7.
Numero 7. This one, it's crazy that there's so many good sequences that this is as low as 7. But the number 7 pick is the helicopter chase from Fallout. And we've talked about this sequence on the channel before. Tom Cruise, from a source, a video I was watching on YouTube, said he learned how to fly a helicopter for this sequence. So the franchise and Tom are both very familiar with him being in the driver's seat in various vehicles. Lots of motorcycle sequences throughout the franchise, dating as far back as like Mission Impossible 2. Got a great sequence of him on the motorcycle in Rogue Nation and Fallout. He's driven tons of cars. He's, and future stuff, he's piloted things, but like this is crazy. He's logged lots of flight hours, right? He got the bug for flying planes way back when he did Top Gun in like the 80s, I think in 1986 or something like that. But I believe he learned to fly a helicopter for this. He has a flight simulator, from my understanding, a local one, like somewhere here. I believe he lives like in the area of Clearwater, Florida. We live in Florida. Tom, look us up. But he learned to fly a helicopter, and in this sequence, what we talked about before, that's really impressive. Tom's the only one up in this helicopter, so he's effectively running every aspect of filmmaking. While he's the stunt coordinator, he's the stunt man because he's flying the plane. Maybe he's not the stunt coordinator. Someone else helped him plan the route. Yeah. But he's the stunt man. He's the actor. He's the cameraman because they've got these cameras rigged up on the plane. I believe some IMAX cameras for that sequence, if I'm remembering correctly, because I just watched it. I should be remembering correctly. But he's the cameraman. He's the director. He's doing all these different hats because he's the only one up there. It's like when you're doing a short film by yourself, except he's doing it with IMAX cameras, $1 million budget, death-defying stunts. So it's super incredible that they were able to accomplish the sequence where he's actually flying the plane. And the sequence actually starts even earlier, where he's hanging onto a crate that's being carried by the first helicopter. And yes, again, he's roped and connected to that piece of whatever, that bulk of junk that's being pulled along by the plane, but he actually was hanging on to the side of that while a helicopter took off. Actually, there's shots of him actually climbing on the rope up towards the helicopter, and you can see behind the scenes footage of him in the sequence where he like kicks his legs up onto the landing boards of the helicopter and like hoists himself up to be able to climb into the helicopter. So a physical feat, super impressive that he's doing all these things. But then once he's actually piloting the helicopter, I think that's somehow even more impressive than the rest of that sequence. I'm counting all of that as one, climbing up onto the helicopter and then piloting it, but so cool.
Yeah, this was one of the first things that I thought of when we made this list.
And it's so visually like awesome, so visually, cinematically aesthetic.
I agree. This brings us to number 6.
Number 6, we've got the hanging onto the plane from Rogue Nation. Already our second one from Rogue Nation on here. So this is from the opening sequence of Rogue Nation, when we get this like end of a mission as we know they're chasing the syndicate. They have to get this, they have to get something off of that plane. Tom jumps onto the top of the plane, and then he's asking Benji to get the door open, so he has to hang on to the side of the plane as it takes off while Benji gets the door open. Super cool here. He has one cable connecting him from his chest harness to the side of the plane, while otherwise he is purely hanging on to the plane of his own strength as a huge Boeing plane takes off into the air, military style aircraft. And they're actually moving so fast during this takeoff. This is one of my favorite fun facts in the Mission Impossible franchise. He has to wear these giant contact lenses that cover the entirety of the surface of his eyeball, like not a normal contact lens that just covers your pupil and iris, covers the whole eye.
So
It's like a sunglass lens that goes into your eyeball, but completely clear, so that they could get this mounted shot on the side of the plane that shows directly at Tom's face as a plane takes off. And they do cut in the sequence. Like they show him hanging on as it takes off, and then they cut, show Benji, and then they show him again. But it looks like they filmed it to where they didn't have to cut. Like when you're watching, it looks like it was straight filmed, and they just cut for the dialogue. But I almost was like, I wish they didn't cut to just keep showing it because it's so sick. But the reason they use those giant contact lenses is because they're going so fast that like a particle of dust or a bug or something that went into his eye could literally blind him. That's how dangerous this sequence is. It would go through his eyeballs.
Also, so he can keep his eyes open for the stunt.
And because, literally his eyes would be watering even like so much with that amount of wind blasting into his eyes. But just a mounted shot straight on his face for that awesome sequence.
The new shot where he's on the biplane for this new film, is he wearing glasses or anything?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I have seen it, but I don't remember.
Because I'm sure he's running into the same issues.
I think he was wearing some kind of goggles in that sequence.
Yeah.
He's got to be goggles.
He's probably like,
no contact.
Yeah, if he is, he's probably like, I'm not putting those things in my eye again. Let's give Ethan Hunt some goggles for this scene.
You should look up to the answer to that when I go on to the next one and start my rant on number 5. Okay, so we're on to number 5, which I have called the dirt bike jump from Dead Reckoning. Now, the dirt bike jump from Dead Reckoning is not necessarily my favorite in terms of like its integration in the story, because in that sequence it kind of feels like they wanted to do that and they just like made it happen. But it's so damn cool that it has to jump up to number 5. The sheer physical act of accomplishing it is so insane. And if you look at the behind the scenes, which they did a ton of behind the scenes coverage on this one for the ramp up, no pun intended, to the release of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, they built this humongous ramp, and later they CGI it in post to make that look like it's a natural cliff face. And it's supposed to be in like the Austrian Alps, I want to say, in the context of the movie. But Ethan Hunt has to divert his path to get on the train because Gabriel has set the train to like full speed ahead, and they were originally going to jump onto it when it slowed down for a curve, but now the train's going too fast, so he has to parachute onto the plane. So Benji gets him up to a high surface, he ramps off this giant mountain cliff, and drops the bike out underneath him and parachutes down to the plane. But they have these really cool shots of Tom just flying through the air. Huge wide shots of him falling hundreds of feet free fall to he's basically base jumping. He's ramping, which base jumping is like when you jump off of, instead of skydiving, you jump off of something and pull your chute. He's base jumping, but before base jumping, he doesn't just jump off of it. He ramps a motorcycle off of the cliff and then drops the motorcycle.
I feel like for that one, that's the one scene that maybe I would have liked it in the movie a little more if I didn't see so much of it behind the scenes beforehand.
I agree.
I feel like it kind of took away from how big it was in the moment of the film. Maybe that was because of how they like cut it too. I think there was a lot of cuts like during that shot, like after he like comes off.
Honestly, in rewatching it, it was better than I remembered in theaters. In rewatching it, because I watched it yesterday, they show some pretty long shots, wides of him falling through the air. It's not quite as satisfying as the stunt we'll get to later. I won't spoil it, but you probably know what I'm going to say. But because that shot we'll get to is more of a oneer.
Yeah,
I think that's the main difference. Is there's a few cuts and there's some shots that are wide, and you know it's Tom because of all the like marketing footage.
Stuff, yeah,
you know it is Tom, but it's really wide, which helps you get the grasp of just how high up he is and how far he's falling. But you're not seeing his face as clearly. So that's like But the original shot they do where he goes off the ramp, it follows him off the ramp and then points down, and you really get a good scope of just how death-defying this stunt is. And that's my favorite shot of that sequence, is the one that like tilts down and shit, the drop.
It does not look like Tom is wearing glasses in the biplane scene.
Dang.
So he might have some of the same tricks going on for his eyes.
I am.
This brings us to what, 5?
No, this was 5.
Oh, that was 5.
So we're almost to our scenes that we're going to review.
Okay, so 4.
4 is the underwater scene.
This is a good one.
4 is the underwater scene from Rogue Nation, and I'm including the entirety of the scene, which means that it includes a jump that Tom Cruise did of over 100 feet. And that scene where you see him jump into the opening of that like water barrel that brings him into the like cooled down server room. He jumps into this, looks like a whirlpool. He jumped, I think what I read said he jumped 150 feet free fall drop.
What?
Insane. So
water?
Yeah. So I'm counting this again as part of the whole sequence into water. Yeah. That's my understanding of the stunt. He did that jump. And then for the rest of the sequence, in order to film for like long continuous shots underwater, Tom Cruise built up his tolerance to breathing, to holding his breath underwater. And he got his tolerance up to 6 minutes. Holding his breath for 6 minutes long.
I think he had the record.
And before Avatar 2, I think Kate Winslet.
Yep.
But which I think hers was something
7,
crazy.
15, something like that.
I was going to say 11. I don't remember exactly what hers is.
No.
You just said 15. You know, you just
said 7 minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh, okay. You said 7:15. That's
7:15.
You should look. Gotta find what hers is then. You're my guy in the chair. But in this sequence, it's really cool. They have to go to these cooled underwater servers because it's going to get them some information that they think is like kryptonite to Solomon Lane. And they're with Ilsa Faust, who we don't know her total allegiances yet. 7 minutes 15 seconds.
7:15, baby.
You know, Aaron knows ball. Aaron knows ball. I thought 11.
Don't doubt me.
I thought 11.
Don't doubt me.
But, yeah. So the only way they can get this done, because metal is detectable on the path.
Tom Cruise, 6 minutes.
Yeah, metal's detectable on. I knew that one. I just read that one. But metal's detectable, so he can't take like any scuba equipment. So he has to go and hold his breath raw. He holds his breath for 6 minutes at some moments in the filming, so much so that the director, Chris McQuarrie, was worried about his health and would bring him up at certain points. And Tom would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm good.
How long could you hold your breath for?
I would say between a minute and 2 minutes.
So
probably a minute, a little bit over a minute.
Do you think you like let go and you take a breath of air because 1, you need air, or 2, you need to start talking again?
Are you saying that? Are you saying because I talk a lot?
Yeah. That 1 to 2 minute break for you not talking is too much to handle, that you have to come up for air.
With how much I'm able to continuously talk, I should be able to hold my breath for like 10 minutes straight. I honestly shouldn't.
So maybe it is the urge to talk that breaks you.
I sometimes don't come up for air.
Yeah.
That could be the only explanation. But this stunt is really cool. I had some details on this stunt too. I'm going to find it real quick for you guys.
Look at this man surfing his phone for answers when he's got a computer in front of him.
Yeah, but my computer's almost dead. Okay, so it says the average human can hold their breath for 90 seconds. Wow. Brain cells will begin to die after 5 minutes without oxygen for the average person, or for an untrained person. That's incredible. And he was able to make it up to 6 minutes of holding his breath. And let's see. Some people can hold their breath for as long as 25 minutes.
What?
Who are those people?
That's crazy. Have you ever heard of Gator Boys?
I've heard of them. I don't know much about them.
They were like on Animal Planet when I was a kid or whatever, and they would go and like relocate alligators and stuff that were in problem areas or whatever. So they would basically just get into these murky ponds and rivers or whatever and lakes and swim around looking for them, and they would hold their breath for like, I don't know, 6 minutes or more looking for these gators underwater. And it's like, you didn't know, like watching the show, you're like, you didn't know if they found the gator and didn't come up or if they're still looking and they're holding their breath. So people like that can hold their breath for a long time.
That's insane. I don't know how people train I don't know. I guess it's just like anything, incrementally and gradually you like build up your lung capacity. But I just feel like there would be a real obvious limit just based on the size of the human lungs. It'd be like we all have to stop here.
Well, it's just yeah, it's just your body's efficiency of, like pushing oxygen through your blood and using the oxygen that you have in your body,
So here's some of the fun facts.
becoming more efficient.
For the underwater scene in Rogue Nation, he did a 120-foot ledge jump. Excuse me, not 150.
Still.
Um, and then it says that although the underwater arm is CGI, the most of the rest of that is just a underwater set that they built with 20 feet of water. So a 20-foot tall set filled with water.
So 120 feet is 36 and a half yards. I feel like yards are easier for me to picture than how
Because of a
feet is.
Because of a football field. That's why. Okay. Yeah, man. I love this stunt. And also I love what it brings story-wise because you're on the edge of this. Also, they put in something really neat. They put in an oxygen meter on his arm, on his suit, and it's like with these really easy to read green bars. They go green to yellow to red for critical oxygen. They show a percentage of how much oxygen he has left in his body. A really easy way to non-verbally show the audience exactly where he's at and how dangerous it is. When it gets down to zero, you're like, oh, he's dead. He's done for. So it's a really clear visual way to show to the audience, like keep them on board with where he's at and how critical. You're like, oh my God, he's got to get that key card. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And then all these complications ensue where he gets hit by the arm, he drops the key code. And when he actually puts in the little like key code, he's not sure which is which. So he has a 50-50 guess on Benji's life. So it's a very edge of your seat stunt, and the behind the scenes make it even cooler. But let's go on to our final three where we're actually going to watch them. Heading into our number 3 spot, we are going to be picking the Mission Impossible rope drop scene, the heist where they break into CIA headquarters. So this scene, we have to pick purely on iconic value.
Yes.
This is one of the most iconic scenes, I mean, basically in film history, not just in Mission Impossible franchises, but it's been mocked so many times. Even animated things mock the drop where he sprawls out, puts his arms and legs out, almost hits the floor. It's really, the scene, what does an incredible job of is the thrills. It puts you as an audience member on the edge of your seat. And
yeah, they build tension really well.
what they're doing is they're breaking in to steal the knock list, which the knock list has all the identities of their undercover agents. They have to break in to trade this, which is a really common trope in the Mission Impossible franchise, where they have to like steal something and give it to the bad guy in order to eventually find out who the bigger bad guy is and stop everybody. So like they're breaking into their own headquarters right now, essentially. And this is where it all started, man. Tom Cruise doing this scene. I think this is the best scene in the whole movie. But Tom Cruise doing this scene practically, and they set up all these parameters that make the scene more tense. Like the room is temperature sensitive, it's sound sensitive. So all the little gadgets you see on Luther's screen are monitoring the change in temperature of the room. The floor is like pressure sensitive. So even if he sweats or drops something on the floor, it's going to set an alarm off to the whole building. That's going to have this room swarmed with agents. If his body temperature, it regulates the temperature of the room, it's going to set off an alarm. They have to be quiet. So there's like a decibel reader in this scene. So this scene is shot like relatively silent, which I feel like as an audience member makes everybody in the theater kind of uneasy, puts you on the edge of your seat when a movie scene is filmed really quietly and every sound is really highly perceptible and amplified. Man, he looks so young.
Yeah. It also goes to show you too, like how much things has progressed over the years. Like in the first movie in 96, I believe this came out. This was the biggest stunt of the movie. Him dropping down, he's freezing over the ground, which we'll see here soon. And now the third biggest stunt in a movie is him flying a helicopter, climbing up a hanging piece of cargo, pulling himself into the helicopter, flying the helicopter, manning the cameras, doing all this other stuff. And it's like, my goodness, that's crazy how much of a leap that is from this, But this does a really good job of the the tension, and that's why
story elements.
yeah, why it's still so good, even though maybe the stunt itself isn't as big and grand as some of these other stunts.
And in this sequence here, when he's actually like parallel to the floor, they had to put coins in his like socks or shoes to counterbalance him, because your body's kind of top heavy. You're usually like your trunk, your chest, your head, your arms are a little bit heavier than your legs. So they had to put a little bit of counterbalance to help keep him in this position while they were filming. They also just hung him upside down for an absurd amount of time. Like, yeah, they're taking breaks on set, but I'm sure that was a rough day.
Yeah.
Getting hung upside down for any amount of time is uncomfortable.
It's like
a bat.
Actors playing Spider-Man or something.
Yeah.
They're like, if I spend all day upside down.
It gets old.
Yeah.
It gets old very quickly.
Here we go. Here we go.
Look at the intensity on his face. It feels very real. Like he's not like trying to look too cool, you know?
Yeah, he's like
Very nervous.
really trying to balance himself.
Yeah. But he's only held on.
Like you said, like he's at his hips, so like he has to balance.
He's gonna engage his like all his extensor muscles.
Not just
high alert.
He's not just hanging. Like if you're being held from your hips, you're actively having to push your back up and push your legs up. So you're like doing what's called like a Superman position, like on the floor, like a hollow hold in a Superman. Yeah. You're doing that while hanging. So that's really hard to do.
The set design's so key here too. I mean, it's a beautiful set. Reminds me of like Alien or 2001 Space Odyssey. Just like very well designed set. And it's pretty simple. It's all white, you know, simple's a charged word for that, but it's like it's
clean.
It's clean, yeah.
Yeah.
But they even here have the decibel reader on his wrist so that he doesn't make too much noise. I feel like that is something they paid homage to in Rogue Nation when they put the oxygen level on his arm.
They do a good job of showing you kind of what's happening and what is
catching a drop of sweat so the pressure sensors on the floor don't activate.
Yeah, but they do a good job of showing you what's at stake rather than just constantly telling you the whole time. You know, they're like, not like, hey, remember your temperature, watch your temperature. You know, they're just showing you. Or like, oh no, Tom's running out of breath. No, they're just showing you on his wrist.
Creating tension is a key to a lot of these scenes. But are you ready to go on to the number 2 spot?
Let's do it. Moving on.
So at our number 2 spot, mess that up. For our Mission Impossible stunt draft, our number 2 spot is going to be the Mission Impossible Fallout Halo jump scene.
Dude, it's hard not to put this at 1.
You had to know that this was going to be up there in the 1 or 2 spot. And if you don't know what a Halo jump is, it's an acronym for a high altitude, low open jump. And it's a very unique kind of jump that's performed mainly in military operations when you want to come in stealthily to a certain location. You jump from a high altitude where radar wouldn't be able to sense you, you're so high up, and you open at a very low altitude where you won't be able to be spotted easily by the enemy. So it involves very precision tactical skills. You have to be very aware of like weather conditions, which they're obviously not in the scene, but you have to like know your shit, because you can pass out at high altitudes, and if you don't open your chute in the right window, you're going to open too high where you could be spotted by a potential enemy, or you're going to open it too low where you will literally splat to the ground and die. So there is like, for these people who are the people on Earth that are very aware of these skills and capable to do it, there is a small window where you are meant to open your chute. And Tom Cruise doesn't actually have to do the low open for this stunt. But
I haven't really been listening to you. I've just been mesmerized by
blah, blah, proper name, place name.
We're going to jump forward just a little bit so we can get into the stunt aspect of it.
Lots of fun facts that we can talk about in this one. If you want to watch, look at the BTS for this scene if you want to see a lot more specifics, because they do a great job explaining how this scene was shot, but we're going to do our rendition here. This scene's basically shot as a oneer, which if you don't know what that means, it means no visible cuts in the scene. From this point that you're watching on, it's just going to be a continuous shot. And the main thing that is not real in this sequence is this storm. This storm is a CGI storm,
which is a lot.
Yeah.
It
helps with a lot of aspects of shooting.
Yeah, but it takes away from a lot of the stunt itself.
You think so?
Yeah. It makes it feel like it's a CGI stunt.
But I see why it fits. It lets them jump anywhere for one. Like if you would have had to CGI Paris beneath them because they're not going to actually jump over Paris. So you would have had to have CGI in the shot anyway when he looked out that window. Now they don't have to do CGI at this exact moment because they're pointed up towards the sky. But you see how there's continually doing this shot. They swap out. There's a Texas switchback there where they cut the camera away from John Walker and they switch out Henry Cavill with the stunt double because only Tom Cruise is capable of doing his own stunts to this level.
Yeah.
So now we've escaped the CGI storm. The storm is meant to like
a lot of this is still.
Well, the ground beneath them is still going to be CGI, like I said, because they're not going to actually do this over the city. Yeah, you mean there's still like a lot of kind of cloudiness from the storm around them, but
it all looks really good.
Halo jumps have to have this like atmospheric decompression type equipment on them, so that lets them obscure John Walker's face because Henry Cavill's been replaced by a stunt double. Means they don't have to like CGI his face on top of the stunt double's face. And right now, since his oxygen cord's been disconnected by that lightning strike,
that looked like a cut.
Yeah, they swiped across camera. But since that oxygen has, they have like this fogginess from carbon dioxide, and his mask helps hide his face better. Another camera trick that, like, see, can't see any face there, so they don't have to do any special effects. Or as many special effects. They still might be using an effect to make the mask look that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But so some of the coolest part that I thought from like the filmmaking aspect, and we're back. We've had 2 cuts this episode, but that's all right.
2 more than we usually ever do.
Yeah, that's all right. Anyways, what I was saying,
you were talking about their cut while they're flying through the air, and how the sandstorm takes you out of.
And we can't even do a one take sitting here
sitting in a room talking.
Yeah. But anyways, one of my favorite parts of this stunt is when he like jumps out of the plane to start.
Let's cut back to that so we can talk about.
So when he's jumping out of the plane to start here, they were saying one of the things that they had to do was have the camera in manual focus because they couldn't adjust it while jumping, I guess. And Tom would have to jump out of the plane and get the perfect distance away from the camera.
I think it was something
in order to be in focus. It's like 2 feet or
I was gonna say 3. It's something super close like that.
Yeah.
Which is insane if you think about it. If you're flying at somebody through the air skydiving, how close do you want to get to them, let alone to a super expensive camera that is being held by that person as they also fall through the air hundreds and thousands of feet?
You'd rather have something like some sort of cage or something on the camera, but still, like, you bump into it, like, you can't use that shot. If you're too far away or too close, you can't use that shot. So I think they did it. I don't even want to put a number on it, but I know they did it like 50 plus times or something. It was some crazy high number that was like, whoa. And this is that point right here where he's running out of the helicopter, or running out of the helicarrier, jumps out. Right here, he's got to get the perfect distance away.
And this is the incredible work. We got to pay like respect to the cameraman here, who's laying probably on their back as they fall through the air, pointing the camera up at Tom. And Tom also has to be incredibly skilled to perfectly line up. Take your guess at home as to how many times they did this jump to film this sequence. Think in your head right now.
76.
3, 2, 1. 106.
Oh,
30 times more than you get. He did a skydive 106 times for the sequence.
That's crazy. So I did say earlier that it was in manual focus. I think that is correct, but they're changing focus throughout. So he must not have like been able to see the screen or something. Either way, they had to like both dial it in to the right distance, the right time, and it's crazy.
The stunt itself, it says, it took over a year to plan.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this is just one of the most...
Isn't that crazy in itself? Because it's like these movies are coming out every 2 or 3 years. Maybe every 2 to 4 years, 5 years maybe.
Once you get later in the franchise, yeah.
But it's like, that's so many movies. So basically Tom Cruise is nonstop working on Mission Impossible, you know?
And yeah, when he works on something else, like he's also in between doing like Oblivion or that Edge of Tomorrow movie.
Which
he's still
both of those. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, good action movie.
I like both of those a lot. All right, ready to go to our number one?
Yes, I love how this one ties into the story too. But this one creates really good stakes with Mission Impossible Fallout. But our number one choice, our favorite stunt from the entire franchise in Mission Impossible history, is, you've probably guessed it, the Burj Khalifa wall climb sequence.
Yeah, this is crazy. I believe
Look at that shot.
Tom Cruise pitched this that he wanted to climb, and I'm pretty sure the safety guy of the film was like, "No, we can't do that." So he fired him and got a new one.
I fired the safety guy. Got a new one.
So
It was
these
either
are-
for this or for the Halo jump. I think one or the
Yeah,
other.
one of them.
That conversation was about.
But yeah, this scene is really good. It kind of ties back into the rope scene from the first Mission Impossible, where there's a lot of setup and tension, and that's what's really elevating the stunt. You know, because like, yeah, the stunt's crazy. He's climbing on the side of this building, but it's like a slow burn, you know, of building intention over and over.
Well, they
scene.
they set the scene by describing that they say 34 minutes till door knock, which basically means 34 minutes till they have to be ready to execute their plan. He has to be up and back down to do his part of their
Yeah.
little deception.
This part right here is cool. That glass and everything you see in the reflection was all CGI.
And now they've got a CGI sandstorm behind him. It had to be hard
Because-
to wrap the camera around him like that too, because the window's right there.
That's in a studio.
Oh, that one shot.
Well, there's a few shots, but that one in particular, because there's no glass there or something, because the camera had to go into the building.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, like, yes, he is doing a lot of these stunts. Like, he's actually out there. But there's still a lot of movie magic going into the scene itself. Like that, like the insert shots of mixed in with him in the studio and him out on set in real life. And then, of course, there's like CGI to clean up the background, CGI to remove all the ropes and stuff. Like, there's still a lot of stuff going into each of these shots. You know, it's not Tom Cruise with these magnetic gloves out there on the side of the building. But since he does do a lot of his own stunts and he is actually out there on the building, it feels more real than if it was just a CGI entire double, or if it was a stunt double or whatever, you know.
And there's still going to be special effect elements in it. Like you talked about, some areas of the closer shots might be filmed on a lot. Even this shot they just showed, it's like basically looks like a helicopter shot. They have a huge reflective building there. They would have had to remove the camera in post because of the reflections. I looked up what floor they're on. It says the team is on the 142nd floor of the Burj Khalifa. Burj Khalifa, if you don't know, is the tallest building in the world with a height of 2,722 feet. In this sequence, he has to scale the outside of it. But what I think makes this sequence my favorite and makes it so good is how many complications arise and how much they have to think on their feet and use their like spy abilities to problem solve so quickly. Because like I said, they're 34 minutes to door knock, and that's when they decide they have to climb the outside of it. He loses one glove because it malfunctions. He takes a couple stories of a fall there and barely clings onto the edge of the building. I like how a lot of the shots point downward too, reminding you just how far the fall would be if he dropped. He drops the laser there, so now he has to kick in through the glass. So like a bunch of technology fails them. There's little issues, here and there. All throughout this sequence, having to climb the edge of the building and laser your way in, you would think is enough of a challenge as it is. But they add in all these complications that make the scene even more exciting and thrilling. And the sequence continues from here even further because he has to get back down. And it's a lengthy sequence, it's a complicated sequence. And yes, even though he's harnessed in, he's on the outside of the actual tallest building of the world. And it's just such an incredible sequence that also has so many good story elements.
Yeah, something that we haven't mentioned yet about any and all of these stunts is that he has to act while doing these stunts. Like he is a character. Some of these stunts, he's delivering lines or looks, or he has to give like character moments of like looking afraid, which I'm sure that's real. But he's like acting alongside these stunts, he's not just going out and rock climbing or whatever, like he's performing at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a big thing in the helicopter chase sequence in Fallout. He's performing while he's flying a helicopter, It's a lot to think about all at once. So apparently there was no stunt double used in this entire sequence. Super impressive.
Yeah. Really cool.
According to Screen Rant, the production team broke around 35 windows on the Burj Khalifa to make the sequence possible.
That's crazy.
I like how they have this laser tool in the movie to weaken the windows, because on a building this tall, you wouldn't be able to just break a window.
Yeah, you probably still couldn't even do that.
So they thought of so many extra details when they made this. And this is when the music kicks in. Bah, 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 bah. So it's, man, it's just so well edited. The sound design's amazing. He's sprinting now down the tallest building in the world.
Yeah, I think he's actually doing that.
And he's just, imagine running towards the ground with gravity pulling you to your death.
Right?
Imagine that every bone in your body, every cell in your body is telling you, don't do this. This is against evolution. You will die.
He's got balls of steel, that's for sure.
And even now at this point, he still has another complication, as if it wasn't hard enough. This rope isn't long enough to get him back. So he has to take this huge leap and jump. Smacks his head. And they barely catch him. They're holding on by the skin of their teeth to pull him back up. Another shot pointed at the ground. I love those shots that like move out over the edge to show the depth of just how far it goes. Like the first one where he steps out. But he barely gets back. And now, still more mission to go. And this sequence continues. They do the trickery with their little heist where they trade out the codes for the diamonds. And then
excellent writing.
He runs away from the sandstorm, and there's a foot chase and a car chase and a giant car flip.
It's nonstop action with pacing.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it work so well.
And really good stakes where it's not just action for action's sake.
Right.
Everything has a driven purpose. And this, like, he's got to get to the side of this building, up the side of this building. He looks back, handsome. He looks back and there's a huge sandstorm coming at him. Like, they just hammer you with extra complications in that sequence. That's what I love about it, is it's so high octane, and they're constant, like, in that sequence too, Ethan Hunt just seems exasperated. He's like, I'm
so tired of this.
But he keeps trucking. So those are our favorite sequences.
3 more movies.
Those are our favorite. That's that Burj Khalifa one is really, really good. And that's Chris McHugh came up with that line in it, a famous line from the movie where they're trying to figure out how they easily tell the audience that the blue means he's sticking and the red means the gloves aren't working. And McHugh just said, oh, what if we said blue is glue, red is dead? And Benji says that in the actual movie. And Tom, I think, says that's where he had a thought to himself, like, man, this Christopher McQuarrie guy, he's really something. It's just an interesting side note from Tom, but good compliment to get from. They call him McHugh. Have you heard that?
No.
Christopher McQuarrie's directed every Mission Impossible movie from Ghost Protocol on. He goes there. His nickname is McHugh.
That's funny. That's cool. So let us know which one is your favorite stunt from the Mission Impossible franchise. What are some that we missed that we didn't cover because we only talked about 12 today?
There's like 100.
So many, yeah. Like we didn't even talk about any of the fight choreography or
cycle chase.
Yeah, like there's so much more that goes into these movies.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So yeah, let us know what are some of your favorites. What is your excitement level for the new movie coming out this weekend? Are you going to see it in IMAX like Andrew and I? Let us know down in the comments. If you want to join in on the conversation even more, you can click on the link in the description for our Discord. This is where we have a bunch of our friends and fans of the show in there. It's a giant group chat. We have different categories in there, talking points. We do debates, polls. We talk about new trailers that have dropped, movies that we've seen, and we go back and forth. And it's a lot of fun in there. Someone's always messaging in there. It's always busy. So if you want to join, click that link. It is totally free to join, so make sure you do that while supplies last.
And you guys can check us out on all of our social media platforms. We're everywhere you listen to podcasts: Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on all the social media platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. We post short form content every day. It's usually different stuff than what we post in our long format podcast episodes, so make sure to follow us on there. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our awesome stuff that's coming out.
Boom. Thanks so much for watching, and
that's a wrap.